Hey everyone, we're AI engineers. I'm joined by Matt from Trigger.
Hey Jack, how's it going?
Very good, very good. So what are you guys talking about at AI engineers?
First of all, we're sponsoring for the first time, which is cool. So we have a booth, and we have a really fun game to play where you can prove that you're a human to an AI. It's like a reverse Turing test. But later today, Eric's going to be talking about durable agents.
Okay, what is?
What's a durable agent?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a durable agent is basically like, how do you build a reliable agent that is stateful? So computer has kind of been stateless for a really long time. Like you do a request to a server and you get a response, and there's like the server itself has no real memory of what happened. So you use like databases and stuff to add that memory. And originally we had long running servers, and then we invented serverless, which is like a more extreme version of stateless. Now, agents are kind of different because you really want those things to remember what just happened. And one of the beauties of the LLM APIs is they're so simple. Like every time you make a call to them, you include like the full conversation history, at least for a while. And then you realize that conversation history has become massive, and like the context is like bloated and problematic. So you have to be clever about it. But generally, like the APIs are really simple. What that means though is it shifts the responsibility onto you as a developer to like figure out how to make this thing stateful. If you're building back maybe a couple of years ago, people were building really, really basic chat apps. And that's fine because you just have the like message history in the browser and you send every message each time. But now people are building like much more interesting experiences, like background agents that are running constantly, chat apps that are more sophisticated. So you have to deal, at some point you have to deal with this problem of state. And there are different ways of doing that. And Eric's talk is kind of about different durable agent mechanisms and like what the trade-offs are.
What are the trade-offs?
Okay, yeah. So one type is called like replay. We call it replay. And this is what we used to do in like Trigger.dev version 2. And it's basically the idea that you have your code and you divide it into these steps. And each step has like an ID. And so the next time the function executes, it caches the ones that it's already done, and it will only do new stuff. And that allows you to have basically like a serverless function that has state. And it means you can build long running agents, but there are some issues with it. One is that anything outside of a step has to be deterministic, and it will happen twice. The other thing is just these things runs get really, really long. So people are building agents with like thousands. Some people are building agents with millions of terms with us. And so if every time that function gets called, it has to replay everything, it can get really slow and cumbersome. Like it doesn't scale very well.
Yeah.
Like think about a chat agent where there's just conversation flying back and forth. I'm pretty sure you've probably got some chat GPT conversations.
Yeah.
Which are like thousands of messages.
Yeah.
Probably really weird.
Mine are, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I showed you. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of one mechanism, which is what we used to do. And then Anthropic yesterday or 2 days ago announced like a managed agents product. And their approach to this is basically you just take the LLM history. So those messages, and which includes like the tool calls and all that stuff, like the text that you're passing to the LLM, they'll just like store that. And you can just kind of replay that. But the downside to that, so there are pros for that. Like it scales much better. It's basically like an append log. But the downside is that like the machine that the code is running on also has state. Like you have like files. You have like RAM, so you have stuff in memory. Like what if you're doing like images or videos? And that state is gone. So you have to like figure out how to deal with that. Like if you're running on a different server. So our approach is basically like you need to do both. You need to have the context state and you need to like deal with that. And you also need to have the execution state.
Yeah.
And the way we do the execution state, which is different from what everyone else does, is that we actually, we snapshot the VM that it's running in. So we snapshot the CPU and the memory and the file system, and then you can turn that server off. And then when you turn it back on, it resumes exactly like it was before.
Yeah. And that's how you do like a lot of the human in the loop and
Exactly. Yeah, this is the other thing, is that lots of the time with agents, you're actually like waiting.
yeah.
You're waiting on the LLM, but really also you're waiting on feedback. It could be from another agent. It could be from some external event from another system, or it could be from a human for things like approval and feedback. And you don't want to pay for those compute cycles.
Yeah.
So we will snapshot the machine, we'll turn it off, and then when like the next message comes in, we'll boot it back up and continue.
Okay. Amazing. How's doing conference, by the way, for the first time?
Yeah, it's good. It's been a great experience. I think the game has been really fun.
Yeah.
Turns out a lot of people are very bad at being human when you ask them to be.
Has anyone beaten my score yet?
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
But I will say you are doing very well.
Okay. Okay.
You should come by the booth later and see if you win the Switch shit.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you think good
conference.
Good investment?
Yeah, the conference has been good. I'm sure we'll do more of these.
Okay. Cool. So how is like actually, I just throw open question. What's the focus right now?
So we're about to release. So the way we've been doing this, like snapshot stuff, until now has been using this like Linux feature called Creu, which no one's ever heard of. And we're about to start using Firecracker micro VMs, which are pretty popular at the moment. A lot of people are talking about them because of sandboxes, and that will allow us to do like much faster, like start times and snapshots and results. And we're going to be open sourcing a lot of that. Firecracker itself is open source. It's what powers Lambda. But people don't really open source like all of this. You need to do a lot of extra stuff to get it to actually work.
And you're going to do that.
We're open sourcing a ton of stuff. Like, and we're basically open sourcing a Docker compatible like CLI. So it's like using the Docker CLI, but for Firecracker. I think it will be like really, really successful.
So
as an independent open source product.
Yeah, and people, if they want to build that would help if they wanted to build their own sandbox.
It would, yeah, it would.
Okay.
We will release the sandbox product, like a managed one, and that will also be open source, so people can just self-host that. Okay. But yes, it will help with any use cases where you want Firecracker.
Okay.
And there are a ton of those now.
And that's like sandbox use cases is exploding. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
We're using.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for lots of reasons, basically like LLMs can write code and that's very useful, but you don't want to be executing that in it's untrusted code.
Yeah.
So you want to be really careful about how you execute that code.
What do you think is going to matter on like who wins and like
in the sandbox space?
Yeah.
I think it's actually, people think of sandboxes as like one market, and everyone's obsessed with the start times. I think that is important for some use cases. There are other use cases where the start time's less important and it's more about like persistent file systems, or actually the fact that they can execute for a long period of time. Obviously
networking
and like access is very tricky. Like it's all well and good having a VM that's secure, but like if you give it all your credentials, then it can do crazy stuff. So there's like a whole, there's lots of companies are working on this as well. It's like, how do you secure that? Like, how do you not provide API keys? And how do you do that like as a proxy layer? There's a lot of like interesting challenges there that I don't think are fully solved.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Just like, so do you think the sandboxes are going to help actually like enforce crazy stuff not happening?
I think they will help. I think there's also like there are problems just with very popular APIs not having fine-grained access controls. So you want to give read-only access in lots of cases, or the ability to draft emails but not send them. So there are problems at all areas of the stack, and there are kind of two schools of thought in people using these tools, I think. There's people who are just kind of YOLOing everything and just being like, whatever happens, it's fine. And then there are people who are so terrified, they're not doing anything. And I think we're going to see in the next 6 months that a lot of these problems are solved. So these things are much, much safer to use.
Okay. Safely skip permissions.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. Okay. We can still go. What else are you focused on?
We're also focused a lot on like observability. So LLM, again, like you're dealing with non-deterministic code here. Stuff's running and you don't really know what's happened. And so being able to look and see what actually went on is really useful. And on like a per execution basis. But when you have a product in market, you're doing like thousands, millions of executions.
Yeah.
So you're not going to look through every single one.
Yeah.
So you need like being able to write queries, which we just launched. We open sourced that. It's basically a way of writing SQL queries on the underlying ClickHouse data that we have. It's inspired by HogQL from PostHog. There's all sorts of metrics features. We're going to be launching later this year like a hybrid deployment model where customers can bring their own like data store. So the data isn't stored on our side. Same for compute. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. We are hiring as well, by the way. So
Who are you hiring?
So we're hiring for back-end and product engineers. We're also hiring an AI engineer. So someone who has experience building agents in production.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any
In
growth?
Europe. In Europe. Yeah, we're also hiring for a growth person.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. What's the growth? Because I feel like that's probably the role that maybe people listening might.
Yeah, so basically someone who's really good at creating content that kind of cuts through. There's more content than ever out there,
Yeah.
especially about AI and agents. So can you create content that cuts through, and can you like promote it on Twitter and LinkedIn and like actually make it visible?
Okay. So maybe they should send you an example of something they've done.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking for people who have a proven record of doing this. Like you don't need to have 50,000 followers on Twitter, but you need to show that you can grow an audience.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you, Matt. That was our fastest one. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.